Hi, I'm Chris. I like to paint things, and according to my cat Sophie, it's time we continue a Christmas Warhammer tradition. Painting evil Christmas elves. Well, Drukhari, Dark Eldar, whatever the heck you want to call them. Some Dark Eldar. I have a small force of Christmas-themed Dark Eldar for some reason, because I thought it would be funny, and I like the contrasting colors and snowy bases. This was going to be one of the first videos I ever made on this channel. This footage of me opening a warp crate is 2 years old at this point. In it, I pulled these Reaver jet bikes and was going to use it to kind of demonstrate the value of a warp crate. Now, I'm not going to do any of that today. I'm just going to show you my process. But these models were enough to make me continue my force. I bought a small group of Kabbalite warriors, ? And after I received these jet bikes from Warp Crate, I decided to make this a little warband. Now, Drukhari, in 40k terms, I don't play a lot of 40k, is a pretty cheap army, but it means you can find some really ruined items for cheap on the internet. So I bought this Ravager. I don't know, I bought a hovering skiff for real cheap. Not the worst painted thing I've ever seen, and definitely I see what they were going for. It came in a few pieces. Luckily, they weren't really broken. They were just unattached, and I'm gonna fix it up. This army actually came out of following a Midwinter Minis tutorial on painting Blood Angels, of all things. Just a lot of dry brushing from dark brown all the way up to vibrant red and then orange highlights. And then I used green accents. This is my Archon, made from another Warp Crate pull. I think it's a non-Dark Eldar unit, like a regular Eldar unit. I don't know. I think he's rad. I like his silver head. And I don't really like the Archon models. But today we're going to use everything I've learned about painting and dry brushing and layering to build an evil Christmas army of evil little elves. These elves are going to pilot our Ravager because I have no spare Dark Eldar Kabbalites. So I needed a crew. These guys are like $5 Reaper models, and they're going to pilot my whole crew. I'm going to make it work. Now, for a little Christmas treat, I wanted to take you all back in time to 4th edition 40k. This is the rulebook I got in my Battle for McCraig kit as a young boy, and it had these old school Drukhari models in it that are barely recognizable from the modern sculpts. I absolutely hate these models. The modern Kabbalites are so much better, but they were a vibe. They were the only army back then where, as a little kid, I was like, I'm not collecting that. But this book is Warhammer to me. Everything in this book is what I imagine the setting to be, and the modern Drukhari range, Dark Eldar range, is exactly that. They're just dark and twisted, and I don't know. I really, really like these models. They're kind of a modern but still multi-part kit. They're really fun to work with, and they're honestly not super expensive, but you do need a lot of them. Now, that being said, come with me. I'm going to show you how I paint Christmas Dark Eldar and fix up an old Ravager. Now, ignore everything I said in the intro. This is actually a Raider, not a Ravager. I think they're the same kit, but regardless. I bought this on eBay for like $20 or whatever, which is pretty sweet deal. And it's a little beat up, but it's nothing that a little bit of super glue can't fix. I'm a big eBay thrifter. I don't like buying things at full price or even like the little MSRP discount you get. I don't know if you just get that in the UK, but all the hobby shops by me, I don't know, I was at the hobby store today and I feel like I'm paying Games Workshop prices at the hobby store. Is that just me? Am I crazy? I don't know. I don't buy a lot of Games Workshop new in box anyway. I love buying old kits like this that someone tried to build, they built, and then they got better. Maybe they built and they quit the hobby in general. I like buying these and fixing them up and making them mine. That's like this entire kit is all Warp Crate stuff, all secondhand. And it's not that hard to just super glue everything in place. Now, important, don't super glue the flight stand. That's what I did, and it will haunt me later. Spoiler alert. Now we got to Christmasify up this here Raider, and we're gonna do it with 2 stars and 5 golden rings, just because, 5 golden rings. And we're going to just attach these and just add a little bit of embellishment, make this model mine. Is this very silly and unnecessary? Yes. Would I recommend anyone do this to their model? Probably not. putting beads on your Warhammer. They're going to stick out like a sore thumb. Speaking of sore thumbs, gosh, look at those calluses of mine. But you know what? It's mine. It's a Christmas model. They're not a meme army, but they're just kind of silly. Most important thing to do is to scrape off the paint and glue these. I don't think I get this down to the bare plastic, but you want to glue them to, you know, not just like the surface level paint, because they're going to fall off. I think one of the golden rings does fall off at some point, but you know, it's nothing that more super glue can't fix. And I'm going to use a lot of glue in this video, don't worry. The last thing left to fix is the little blade on the bottom. I have no good fix for that, except, you know, I thought about just cutting it up or even cutting it off, but I decided to like fuse a Necron blade to it because it was kind of the same shape, make it really silly and long, fortify that super glue connection with a couple of offcuts of sprue, and then put a little bell at the bottom because, oh, there we go. Okay, yeah. Put a little bell at the bottom because this is Christmas. And I'm not going to sing Jingle Bells. You know how Jingle Bells goes. Pretty happy with that. Very silly. Let's go prime it. So it's winter here in New York State. It's a weird winter. It's not snowy, but I did see a large band of snow coming in and rushed to prime this bad boy before the snow set in. I tried to do like a cool gradient using a dark primer and then a rusty brown rather than like a regular zenithal of white. I kind of had to go back and forth a little bit to get the pattern I wanted, and eventually it ended up giving me like a sprayed, I don't know, there was some flecks of paint that sprayed and spattered, but I think it looks kind of cool. It works for Eldar, so not worried about it. Now what we're going to do is dry brush from this dark brown up to a super bright red, and then go in with a bright orange highlight. The exact same as we painted our actual like Cobblites and the miniatures, you know, the actual foot soldiers. Now it's important to glove up for this because I don't want my nasty human oils rubbing off any of this nice surface primer. So I just start taking that dark red and dry brushing upward, just going from dark red and slowly, you know, adding in a little bit more bright red, but also slowly taking off the amount of paint that I did. So the first one was almost an overbrush, but that red is a little bit transparent, so it keeps our gradient. And then as you can sort of see, I'm just adding in more and more bright red to get a nice smooth transition, but also using less and less paint on the brush to get from, you know, to get a nice transition. I don't own an airbrush. I don't know that I want an airbrush. I really enjoy dry brushing, and you can get not the same, but very nice results. And you kind of get your edge highlighting done now, whereas if I had an airbrush, I'd still be edge highlighting the whole monstrosity later. This is fun. This is my favorite part of painting. Dry brushing and edge highlighting. Those are the two things that I would do forever if I could. Now I went with a different, I've never done this before. This is a test, but I have painted a lot of Black Templar Space Marines. And I'm sort of dry brushing the way I would dry brush a Black Templar vehicle on the bottom half. So the top half has highlights of red to orange. The bottom half has highlights of like black to very dark blue with really bright blue tips to give the impression of black metal armor. I'm actually very happy with that. Is it a little weird looking? Maybe. Is it very Eldar looking? Absolutely. Now the rest of my Dark Eldar army has a very small amount of metallics. I didn't have that many good metallics when I started painting them, so I'm trying to keep the metallics limited, but a Christmas themed thing definitely needs some silver and gold, so we're gonna add that right now. Molly would really appreciate it if you could consider subscribing. I would too, but mostly the cat. Yeah. Okay. She doesn't want to be bothered. Just subscribe or like the video. Sorry, Molly. With the metallic sorted, we needed our nice contrasting green. My favorite green is Citadel Moot Green. Now I'm moving away from Citadel paints. I don't want to start a long discussion about why that is because I've been yelled at for that before. So don't discuss it unless you want to in the comments. But I love Citadel Moot Green. It is probably my favorite green paint, and all of my orcs are painted that color. Trick with it is you just take a very dark green, like that Pro Acryl paint I showed, whose name is escaping me, and then you just, again, like anything, you slowly mix in that moot green and layer it up. And then I like to mix in a greenish yellow, which is this cyber yellow from Green Stuff World, but any yellow that's tinted green, like in the green direction, not like a reddy yellow, is great for the very, very tip highlights, the brightest edges, the sharpest corners, that sort of thing. I'm also very proud of this control panel. Then we need like our tertiary colors, brown, dark gray, light gray, and for some reason I'm going to show you those and then show you me edge highlighting with red. But I wanted to take inspiration from the original painter of this kit, and what you see a lot on Dark Eldar vehicles is you kind of edge highlight all of the panels rather than do any panel liner. Panel liner I'm not going to do in this video, but I think I might add some later because it might really make it pop. But I did just a bright red edge highlight along all of these. It's very fun, very time consuming. Not the cleanest job in the world, but I can't really go back and fix it because I don't have that gradient in a bottle. But, I mean, that's basically base coats done right there. Next I'm going to steal my wife's nice pink rotary tool. Probably gonna just keep stealing it for a while. And I need to mount this bad boy to his nice clear base. That way it'll be a little easier to hold and work with now that the base coating is done. I took some wire and ran it through the hole that I drilled. This is, in hindsight, not the best wire to do this with, and I did not drill a long enough hole. And I chose to use tacky glue. I have some UV cure resin somewhere. If you saw my Blood Bowl video, I own it. It's somewhere. I couldn't find it. Probably would have bonded better than this. Again, foreshadowing. And with our raider done, it was time to move on to its crew. I'm very happy with that. There's going to be some additional things I add later, so it's not done, but it's done enough for me to move on to the next part. It's assembling a crew of angry little Christmas elves. I played around with placement to kind of figure out where I wanted these guys, and they're going to need a little bit of kit bashing to make them fit into the scene. Well, you know, fit into the vibe. They need to look like they're from 40k and not some fantasy elves from Reaper. Which they are, but nothing that a little bit of snipping and imagination can't fix. First thing I did for some odd reason was snip them off all of their bases. Now, can anyone tell me why this was a dumb idea to do first? It did mean I could paint the bottoms of their little feetsies, aside from the feet snapping there. I'll show you. Well, how do I put them on a painting handle to paint them? Not easily. That's how. I am going to save these bases for later because they're kind of nice and I could use them for some fantasy stuff or put those cobble textures to work somewhere. I decided one of these was going to be the captain and sit at the controls, but to do that he needed to stand on something because he's a bit small. I mean, he's an elf after all. He's probably tall for an elf for all we know. So I decided to build a little Santa sack. Took a little bead from my box of beads. Everyone should have a box of beads, they're very versatile. And I first opted to try and make a sack out of paper mache, basically. Taking some paper towel or kitchen roll, as some people call it, and wrapping the bead up into a little sack and taking a little string of jute cord and tying it together. One bead felt too small and wasn't the right shape, so I opted for a bunch of different beads to like give the sack a shape full of like presents and stuff, and trimmed it up. Now first I was like, oh, this is cool. It took me 5 minutes. It looks very nice. It's a sack. What more do you want? It's a Santa sack full of presents. It doesn't fit very well, but we'll make it work. Then I took my little Santa sack and some watered down glue and literally just slathered it in glue to get it to hold a shape. It's fine for now, I guess. Then I had to greeble up the goblins a little bit. Elves? I think, I don't know. I had to greeble them up. I had to give them some Dark Eldar parts. Just to, like, again, make them kind of fit so they weren't just clearly fantasy elves. Gun, nice little headpiece, sword, really easy. This is my favorite dude. He's just got a sword and a little Eldar blaster in his hand. That's fun. This guy's just got a spike because spikes equals bad guys. He's gonna be piloting the gun. I chopped up this sword to look much more like a Kabbalite sword, and I gave our captain a fun little headpiece because the longer the headpiece, the more authority that one has in elf culture. Now without the bases, obviously I had no way to paint them. So in true Dark Eldar fashion, I drilled some holes where the sun don't shine. I made sure my cat averted her eyes, and then I glued them all to like a little plastic shot glass handle. I also hated the way this sack looked after paint, and I opted to try and sculpt one out of green stuff. It's a little bit better. It'll get the job done. Now the first step to painting anything Christmassy, obviously, is to drink some nice hot cocoa and get yourself in the mood. We're gonna do some basic like underpainting and dry brushing on these guys with some grays and whites, and then we're going to, use a speed paint over it. There's a word for that kind of painting, and I'm going to opt with the phrase underpainting. Say it with me, it's called underpainting. We're going to build a bunch of highlights on their skin. The skin is perfect for that because these elves are ripped for some odd reason. And I want to make a very black purple, like a dark purpley skin tone. So we're going to mix a black speed paint, shaken very, very well, and a nice purple wash. This is an older army painter purple wash, but we're going to mix the two together. It still came out a little blacker than I would have liked. I probably should have, used less black, because black is a very powerful tone and a very powerful pigment. But speed paint, again, is awesome over underpainting. And it gave these guys some nice definition and some very, very quick skin on otherwise very tiny models that you shouldn't spend hours and hours layering up. Then I opted for some simple color choices. Green, accent color for most of the accessories and hair, gray for a lot of the clothes, brown for all of the leather, and then a strong tone to tie a lot of it together. Now we need some finishing Christmassy touches to really sell this model as a Christmas Raider. This is the part I was dreading because I knew I wanted to do freehand, and I don't do a lot of freehand. Originally, I was going to stick this tree on there and just say, it's good enough, but I figured, you know what, if I'm making a video, I got to try something new. I have painted one, pine needle type thing before. I freehanded a banner for my 15 mil Ultramarines, if you've ever seen that, and I was weirdly pleased with how that came out. So I used the same idea here, and honestly it's the same as layering up any sort of, green into brighter green, but I'm relying on the texture of the bristles of the brush to really sell the tree look. I think that's why I'm able to freehand this and not absolutely hate it, because you just use rough bristles and you get a bristle look. I'm channeling my inner Bob Ross, obviously. Highlights still go where highlights go on a miniature if I was painting a miniature tree. It is more than good enough. Is it amazing? No, but it's more than good enough. And then I almost panicked because I thought I ruined it with these little ornaments because the red was so gosh dang bright. I had a little panic attack, but you can always fix it. Happy accidents. I fix it later, I promise. Then I got to work on some detailing for the base. Bases on these are what bring the army together because we're going to go with a muddy, rocky, snowy base. I threw on some little details of these gears just because I didn't know what bits to throw on, but maybe they're discarded pieces of Santa toys, I don't know. And then my go-to mixture of glue and sand and baking soda with some brown paint to make it look like mud. Easy, right? Easy. And then I have no idea what the hell I did on the backside of the banner. I tried to make it look like an emo kid's notebook, I think. Like, if you ever searched like grunge background PNG, that's kind of what ended up coming out. And I don't know, I'm not gonna fix it. I don't care enough. It's fine, it does the job. It looks kind of edgy like Dark Eldar should. Basing was supposed to be really easy. It was just a dry brush of an off-white and then a wash of strong tone. And if you can see, it started cracking at the bottom. And I got really, really mad. I was hoping it wouldn't actually break, so I clipped all of the little elves, and I dotted them all around the raider in fun places. So our little gunner guy on the side hanging off the edge, a little guy who's going to man the gun up front, our Christmas sack full of goodies and guns. That's going to be kind of where our pilot stands. And this dude with a sword just hanging out with a sword. He's so excited. Look at him go. And then I flocked the base with some frozen tufts from Army Painter. Again, just selling. This is the basing technique I have for all of my Dark Eldar. So I just keep it consistent. Nothing you've never seen before. And then I take out like a 12-year-old bottle of Citadel Valhallan Blizzard. This I bought when I was a kid to put on the bases of all of my Tyranids, who back then were light and dark blue, and they were High Fleet Frostbite, because I thought that was really cool when I was like, 10 years old. The pot still works. Eventually it's going to run out and I have to do the baking soda glue method, which is fine. But I have it, I'm going to use it. And then disaster struck. The base finally gave out. I knew it was going to. I was praying it wouldn't. So I ended up replacing the transparent rod with a wooden dowel, drilling some holes, clutching my booty hole as I drilled a hole through my expensive model that I just spent 10 hours painting. It wasn't expensive, but you know what I mean. It's time expensive. Oh man. This is stuff you do before painting. This is not stuff you do later. I took some Gorilla Glue, made sure the fits were good, glued it all together, prayed for a Christmas miracle, and then I was done. And thank you so much if you made it to the end of the video. I want to thank all of you. I again request you do the liking and the commenting and subscribing. I hope you have a Merry Christmas, a Happy Hanukkah, lovely whatever holiday you celebrate. Religious, say religious, whatever the hell you do. I hope you enjoy the winter times. I'll be back in the new year with more regular videos. I'm probably going to get back to regular now that I moved and set up. If you care, I'm trying to do at least 1 video a month. 2 if possible. 2 would be great. We'll see. I don't know. I'm a busy guy. I'm not. I'm just, painting Warhammer takes a lot of time. Regardless, again, like, comment, subscribe. And I've been Chris. I like to paint things. Have a good one. Bye.